Molly Robinson back with you with Genda, like as promised. Don't know what that song thing was the other day. Please ignore. Um, I guess I just didn't want to read the poem. Anywho, let's get down to business. Genda is the Gender Expression Non-Discrimination Act. Um, I'm going to give you some facts for frequently asked questions and answers, so that you can better understand exactly what this bill is. Genda is a bill that adds to the category of gender identity and expression to the already existing New York State human rights law. Currently, law makes it illegal in New York State to discriminate on the basis of age, race, creed, national origin, sexual orientation, sex, and other categories in areas of employment, housing, public accommodations, education, and credit. This act would extend current law to ban discrimination on the basis of gender identity and expression as well. Um, Similarly, it would add gender identity and expression to these same categories already included in New York State's hate crime laws. It's a protection not just for transgender people. It encompasses anyone who falls outside of the gender norms, and I feel that I really shouldn't have to explain that. You know how everyone, well, I shouldn't say everyone, most people are raised that a man is a certain way and a woman is a certain way, and boys should do certain things and little girls should do certain things. And that's just not the reality of life, and that is not how everyone is. We are not cookie cutters. Um, definitely not a gingerbread man. Um, and so with Genda, we are all protected to express ourselves freely, whether that's through the way we dress, the way we act, anything. And it would be considered a hate crime if we were violated or harassed or bashed or whatever you want to say. Um, I want to explain how gender identity and expression differs from sexual orientation. Gender expression most easily is explained for me like as an example, a transgendered individual. Their their feelings, their expression, their identity, who they are inside doesn't match who they are on the outside. So they strive to become who they really are through transition. That is gender expression. Whereas just because that person may be a transgendered individual, let's say a woman to a man, and now he is gay. Well, him being gay is his orientation. Him being a man is his gender identity. Um, the legislation is necessary because, through human rights laws in New York, it prohibits discrimination against groups of citizens who face widespread social hostility and unequal treatment. Unfortunately, people who present their masculinity or femininity and/or in a way that differs from the stereotypical gender roles traditionally associated with their birth sex are not explicitly covered in statute, though there clearly is a need. There are many documented cases where social antagonism against transgendered individuals and their families has led to many being denied or fired from a job, harassed in the workplace, faced with a glass ceiling, harassed or faced with eviction by their landlords, denied rooms in a hotel, refused service in a restaurant, given inadequate medical care, subjected to violence, and otherwise treated as second-class citizens solely because of their gender identity and expression. Now, what I was saying when I was telling you that it doesn't just protect transgendered individuals, which, by the way, my facts are coming again from the Empire State Pride Agenda and personal knowledge and research. What I was telling you is that if you look at me, I don't fall into the stereotypical female birth sex gender role. I am not a transgender individual. I'm a lesbian. But I face similar hatred for how I look. I have been bashed and had personal instances or experiences with individuals because of how I look, not because of my orientation. But, for example, examples are the easiest way. I was approached by a young man who was a friend of a coworker of mine a couple years ago. And because of the way that I looked, he told me that if I wanted to look like a man, and we won't get explicit, but anyway, if I wanted to be a man, then I could take a punch like a man. Now, thank God it didn't escalate, and I had friends to simmer the situation down, which I wouldn't engage in that violent behavior, or reciprocated, I should say. But had Genda been in place, I would have been protected and been able to call the police, and it could have been labeled as a hate crime as opposed to a domestic dispute or disturbance of the peace. Or more recently, I was involved in the same sort of thing, which was not just because of my gender expression, but also because of my sexual orientation. I was harassed by another man out of nowhere. He actually blocked my roommate and myself in with his car, proceeded to exit the car and curse at me and tell me that, just terrible things because of how I looked, and he assumed that I was gay, which I am, and decided to bash me for that as well. I would have been able to get him. Now, we did take him to court. And when I say to get him, I mean for him to go through the proper ramifications for treating another human being the way that he did. It's not acceptable. In court, they ruled that it was road rage and, I believe, disturbing the peace. And he was sentenced to, drumroll, anger management courses. And I believe he got a little bit of community service. To me, that was out of line. That's not okay. It was a hate crime. There was no altercation. There was nothing that happened that should have led this individual to treat me the way that he did. Not that it would be okay to treat me that way, even if there was a problem. But Genda would have protected me better than I'm protected now, because clearly the current laws do not protect individuals in the LGBT community. Let me answer some more questions, and then we'll get off the soapbox for this episode on gender. Isn't transgender discrimination already prohibited by law? This is a question that's frequently asked. No. Neither federal nor state statutes specifically ban discrimination based on gender identity and expression in employment, housing, public accommodations, credit, or education. While at least 2 New York State courts have found local or state prohibitions on sex, gender, disability discrimination can apply to transgender people, those precedents do not necessarily apply in all circumstances and are not binding on the entire state. Because sexual orientation and gender identity expression are different, courts generally have not interpreted sexual orientation non-discrimination laws to include the transgender discrimination as well as the gender expression discrimination. The current public opinion of transgender discrimination, a solid majority of New Yorkers support a statewide law prohibiting the discrimination and all the accommodations we were talking about. A global strategy group poll of 600 voters commissioned by the Pride Agenda in 2008 found that with a plus or minus 4% margin of error, 78% of New York voters support the passage of such laws, and only 13% oppose. That tells you something. That is, yes, a controlled group of 600 people. Well, not necessarily controlled, but I mean the amount. And doesn't that give you insight? If 78% of 600 people in New York State are for same-sex marriage and for Genda, what do you think that number equates to on the scale of the amount of citizens we have throughout the state? It's something to think about. Signing out. Peace. I hope that everybody got a little something from this. Thanks for listening. I'll post this on Facebook. If anybody has any questions, feel free to post it or request me as a friend. It's sweetsalt27@aol.com. You can reach me there, or look that up on Facebook. I'd be more than happy to answer any questions anybody has.